Am I clear?
Yes,
Are you
yeah.
seeing me?
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to 100 and 0. And what's 100 and 0? The true undefeated champion, God Himself. Pow! Kapow! So, today, as promised, people, boy, do I have a discussion for you. Now, remember we started, are you hurting? I spoke about the different depression, states of depression, PTSD, um, trauma, traumatic, everything. Well, today we're going to speak about it from a substance abuse aspect. Okay, but before we get started, all right, you know what we got to do? We got to say a prayer. Spirit of the living God, fall fresh upon me, Lord. As today we go forward 100 and 0, let I, not Susan Samuel, speak, but let you speak through me, Lord. And Mr. Michael Williams, our guest right now. Lord, let this episode, let this segment be a blessing and a healing to everyone that is hurting. Let them know that they could turn to you, for your word said, I shall never leave you, never forsake you. In Jesus' precious name we pray. Amen. So, with
Okay.
that said, let's get started. Okay, people, I'm going to put on my coach. You know me, I put on my coach. Coach, you're going to be a sponsor because I make your glasses what? Look good. Okay, people. So today is going to be, I'm it, even though the topic is one that's going to get deep, I'm excited because of the guests that we have on board today. A very good friend of mine that I have known well over a decade, Mr. Micheal C. Williams, people, who is a certified peer recovery advocate, recovery coach, and HIV peer educator for New York State. Say hello to the audience, Mr. Williams.
Hello, everyone. And let me thank you, Susan, for asking me to do this with you.
Thank
As
you.
you just said, I've known you for many, many years. And when I think back on when we first met, at a rally, I was impressed with you and the reason why you were at the actual rally at National Action Expert. I remember it like it was yesterday. Always being proactive, looking to make change, looking to help people, and your organizations that you've been involved with. We've worked on numerous things around down through the years. So when you asked me to do this, I mean, it was just something that I just had to make time to do. I appreciate it and I admire you, and let's try to help as many people as we can.
That because that's what this is all about. I want everybody to know pretty much that our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, that they can depend on. And so I'm going through my notes here. Give me a minute if I look a little distracted because put it all together. So God took before I got on. I want to talk about, like I said, this is a deep subject here. This year, we literally lost three icons: Michael C. Williams, Doc G, incorrectly Jacob, meaning Doc G, and DMX, Earl Simmons. And I kind of want to give a brief background of each of them, what I had discovered in my research. But let's start with Michael K. Williams because he's okay. He just transitioned home to glory. Well, I don't like to say die because our spirit doesn't die. It lives on forever. It's the vessel that dies. And he transitions to heaven 2020. He was an American actor. He played Omar Little on HBO drama series The Wire. Albert Chalky White on the HBO series York Empire. He was also acclaimed for his role as Jack, husband of Bessie Smith, in HBO telefilm biopic Bessie. He acted in supporting roles in other films and television, including The Road, Inherent Vice, The Night of On Movie Gone, 12 Years a Slave, and We Rise when they see us, Manhattan Limit. He also appeared as a cameo extra in the Hendrix song "Dear" by Wycliffe Jean, depicting a struggling deadbeat dad selling drugs to make ends meet. But what really intrigued me about him, Mr. Williams, interesting, he's Michael K. and you're Michael C. Look, he was born in Brooklyn, which is my hood. That's why this hurts so much. In New York City, he's the son of Bohemian mother from Nassau, and Booker T. Williams in America, an American from Greeleyville, South Carolina, where his African American father has deep roots. Williams was raised in Vanderveer Projects in East Flatbush. I used to hang out there, okay? Brooklyn. He attended George Westinghouse career in technical education high school, right? But this is what really caught me. Williams was molested as a child, and it left him confused about his sexuality. And it said after getting into trouble as a youth, he enrolled in the National Black Theater in New York City. But there you see he had an underlying factor there with molestation. And then it's another one, once I get a hold of it, speak about his struggle with drugs. And then you have Shock G. He transitioned home April 22nd of this year. Okay. We know him from Digital Underground, right? Talk about hip hop. Also from New York City, another one from New York City. Spent most of his childhood moving around the East Coast with his family, eventually settling in Tampa Bay, Florida. But I want to skip to where it says that he was found dead, hotel room, no evidence of foul play. And then they announced on June 10th, the county medical examiner announced that he died from an accidental drug overdose. But prior to that, he was put in alcohol protective custody and undergo substance abuse evaluation and treatment, right? Because he was at a hotel and it was a disturbance and he was full, right? And it said March 27th, Tampa police officer responded to the International Plaza for a battery call. A woman told police that he was at the mall to meet her and apologize for breaking the phone, and they found him to be intoxicated. And then I had one with DMX where I don't see that one, but it was speaking about DMX, how he was abused, growing up by his mom and her boyfriend, and how at the age of 14, he actually started using crack cocaine. So, I mean, the question that I have here, what, in your opinion, as a professional, would drive someone to drugs? And then in this case, unfortunately, and I call it senseless death. It's senseless because it's something that could have been avoided because they OD'd on drugs.
Well, everybody's story and everybody's road is different, as you may well know. Um, it's it's tragic that we lost these gentlemen that were so talented in their craft and their gift, if you want to call it from God, to be able to do what they did, to reach people, to be able to do what they were put here to do. Um, Abuse in our families, in the community that go on, and not talked about is so prevalent these days. It really is. It has been going on for many years. It's like that elephant in the living room. You don't talk about it our black communities. And when it comes to that pain, that shame that comes with that pain of abuse, you know, the escape to feel better about it, I think starts with the grooming of how society puts about the whole scheme of getting high, with having fun. You look at commercials, with cigarettes, Newport, Alive with Pleasure. Remember that? Every time you alcohol, you have people partying and this and that. So we grew up with that, and even watching our adult parents, friends, adults in the community, you know, everything was centered around getting high and having fun. So we were brought up to think that that was cool. And being curious, I myself, I fell prey to that too. I used myself, but we'll talk about that maybe later on. Um, is that it will definitely give you a temporary release, from reality. But what happens is reality when you come to is still there. Pain that you don't talk about, that you hold on to, is deafening, as we well know. But those are just three examples. There are thousands of people out there today who use, in my professional capacity, the mental pain that people go through. I meet with patients. I actually work for the city in that capacity as a counselor, and I meet with patients who actually have that in their diagnosis. It's brought about by the pain that they went through different abuses and using substances, dual diagnoses. And a lot of the stories are about abuse.
So wait, I want to stop you right there because you hit on it a couple of times when you talk about the pain, the mental trauma of it, where it resulted in a dual diagnosis because in order to deal with that pain, that mental trauma, they turn to drugs. So this is real.
Yes, and there's different reasons why people do it. Come on, we know that curiosity. We know that wanting to grow up and be grown when we young. We know about the party scene and going out and having and popping bottles, and stuff like that. We know, and it's promoted in videos. It's promoted in all of these different things, and you know, as young people, we want to be grown, and then when we get grown, we start doing what we saw other grown-up people do.
So what you're
um,
speaking about, sorry if I could interject, is peer pressure now. So that's the peer pressure.
Peer pressure is definitely one aspect of it. Peer pressure is one aspect of it. Curiosity is another aspect of it. you know there are many different reasons why, but I will not say that it starts at home. We're not being taught. We're not being shown. Our households have been dysfunctional because of many different reasons. You know, um, I look back on my own roots growing up in the South Bronx. I had two great parents, four other siblings, and we really uh, we saw the heroin addict, the wino, the this. We knew what they were. We knew what not to do, what we shouldn't do because it didn't look good. It was not, something that we ever wanted to aspire to do, you know. And I say in my older years, I thank God my parents sending us to Sunday school. They didn't send us to church, they sent us to Sunday school. As a kid, we thought that was 6 days of school, like, oh, you know. But we had grandparents also that really they took us out. They did all these things, so we had a close knit family gathering. And then my parents, they weren't drinkers, they weren't substance abusers, they weren't this and that, but it was in the neighborhood, it was out there. And for my own self, I was just wanting to be cool. So if you want to call it a form of peer pressure, you can, because mentally I wanted to be cool, and it wasn't cool. And no one told me, yo, come on, let's do this. I pretty much was the one who initiated what I wanted to do for myself. Um, and many years later, it escalated to somewhere and took me somewhere I did not want to go. And for me, I know personally it was God who had these people in place in my life, my godfather, good friends, which I have today, you know, sisters, brothers, this and that, who were my support network. If only in prayer that 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 kept me from going so far to the left. And
If you don't mind me stopping you for a minute, so I have worked as a substance abuse counselor in New York City Department of Education. So at one point, my job was to go into the classrooms to speak, to the youth, as you said, to teach them about the dangers. Because as I'm thinking, it wasn't like taught in my household as well. I mean, my grandmother, of course, she didn't, use or anything. It was never said, Suzanne, don't do this or don't do that. You just knew not to go there. But I'm glad that the city took it upon themselves to have a unit where we went in and literally spoke to the children about drugs. But the only reason why I'm mentioning this is because it had different stages. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, you said that you had went that path, that you chose to do that because you wanted to be cool. Did you take like the steps, like they said, cigarettes is the gateway to drugs? Did it start with cigarettes or did you start higher than that? Because from my
well,
recollection, cigarettes, weed, and then it escalates.
no, well, I started with the marijuana, and the marijuana, with the drinking and then
So
drinking
you
and
stick
trying
with
out.
that.
Right,
Okay.
forget the cocaine. Cigarettes were never really my thing. I mean, the cigarette.
Okay.
Although I have to admit that. I mean, I smoked for like 8 months, you know, and then I caught a cold, and I tried to smoke a cigarette, and it almost killed my chest, and I was cured at that moment, the coughing and everything.
That kid you
Um,
instantly, didn't it?
yeah, you know, but definitely those things are gateways, because those are things that mess with your pleasure principle, the in your mind. All of these mood altering drugs, they're mood altering drugs, you know, and anything that you put into your body that alters your mood, you know, first thing that stops growing is your emotions. So
Mm.
now your emotional state, say you start at 15 and you smoking to your 25, you are still emotionally at 15 years old. So
Wow.
you're you're acting erratic, things that really should not bother you, or you think you're still acting in a childish emotional way. And you see that a whole lot now, with adults, and especially with young adults where I'm at. We have some patients that come in as young as 18 years old, and my heart really goes out with them. I work with them really hard and let them. And my whole thing is, people don't care how much you know. They don't care about your credentials. They don't care about, anything until they know how much you care. And that's when people are most receptive to anything that you might have to say to them, you know. And I always convey that to them. When I share my story with them and let them know that I know, what it's like. And it is what I know my purpose is. I mean, I've been through a lot of things in life, and God has brought me and positioned me to be able to do the things that I do today. I've done drugs, I've been to prison and everything, and now I am not a number. I'm not an inmate. I'm Mr. Williams
Ooh,
wherever
so,
I
so,
go.
so, but I like the fact, Mr. Wins, I have to stop you there. You said God had brought you through this. So when you
Absolutely.
were going through this, what did you do? What? Because I'm so disturbed about, like I said, Shock D, DMX, and Michael K. Williams, and I really want this to help someone. You know, I know when I researched Michael K. Williams, he had a mentor. It was a pastor that he was able to confide in. And then I saw that that pastor, that mentor transitioned at 20 in 2015. So he lost that. And I know, so speak about that. So when somebody have a loss, would that cause them then to relapse, to go back?
It can with some people who don't have, a backup plan. Or, for me, I have many mentors, and for many different reasons and many different situations. And even one of my mentors is younger than I am. And it's because the fact that what they have achieved and what they represent in my life and represented in my life and helping me to escalate and stay on a positive path by their example, because again, we have people in our lives that we people would talk a good thing, but if you show people who you are, you show them and you target it, you know, they're more tuned to listen. Um, there's no real rocket scientist thing that I do and why I'm so effective. First of all, God makes me effective, and that's what
Amen. Give him the
my prayer,
praise.
my prayer every day that He allows me to be effective in the job positions that He gives me. Uh, but it's like I am just sharing with who I am with them, understanding that I know how they may be feeling and helping them navigate through this whole thing. And it is really taking a whole village to raise a child.
Mm.
Something that I when I met you, really caught me. It takes a community to raise a child. Your organization, I really, believe that because my family unit in itself was like that in our neighborhoods. My mom and my dad, they really, we took the whole block on trips. We did things and shared things with people who didn't have, and I thank God today. My mother's 83 and she's still with us,
Amen.
and
Amen.
love my mom. I catered to
Shout
her.
out to Mrs. Williams.
Absolutely. You know, um, I have people like Dr. Nabonay who truly is, through it all, he has always been a positive role model, a positive influence, and was there for me. And my best friend Samuel Matthews, who's in the Department of Education, and we stay close knit. And of course, you, Susan, we are always They're helping and encouraging and being there for one another and seeing how we can help other people. Um, as I go through my life journey, helping other people, it's about reaching back and seeing all of these people that need, and the need is out there. Today, we look at how they just legalized marijuana. Um, there's a report out that says the marijuana that they're selling, legal and illegal, is 10 times more potent than it was 10 years ago. So
Oh, wow.
they're pumping it up. And I see it because I'm in the capacity in which I'm at in the hospital. This marijuana is, people are smoking it, and it is taking them places where they did not want to go.
Now, wait. Being that you are being transparent, I want to make a confession. I have a very good friend of mine that sells edibles. Okay. And so, when it comes to drugs, I have to say, people, your girl is a virgin. God made it so I can't drink. Lord knows if I try to, it burns. When it hit my mouth, burn going down, burn all the way. I'm asthmatic, like you mentioned with your ad. You caught the cold, you couldn't breathe, so I can't smoke cigarettes at all, or even weed. But I tried this edible, and Lord have mercy. When I tell you, it had me going. All I could do was go to sleep. I was just a spinning, and I said, "My God, in Zion, how do people do this?" But for you to say that is 10 times more potent, it makes sense. Because I couldn't even deal with it. And now it's legalized. So now, would you say there has been an increase of individuals coming to your program because it's been legalized?
Well, not program, the hospital.
The
It is
hospital,
putting
rather.
people in the hospital. It is putting people in hospitals all over the place.
Wow.
And I knew that was going to be a issue anyway when they did that. We already have K2 out there, you know, which is a wow. I don't even know what it is
Please
that these
explain
people
that. What is K2? Enlighten me.
K2. K2 is something that people smoke. It used to be uh, it's potpourri. Actually, it's potpourri. It's something that people put in their house for the smell, and it was banned by the health department. It was banned by the health department, and then it came back in little packages, little pretty packages. Don't ask me how. Don't ask me why. But it's probably all boils down to money, right?
Yes.
Um,
Fortunately.
we have to educate our young people and give them other avenues to doing things. First of all, um, the programs, the money, the things that we used to have when we were up, coming up, Manpower, CETA, all of these different after school programs need to be back out there. They need to be engaged. These young people need to be able to, at 14, 15 years old, have be have jobs, have something to do after school, to get them acclimated to growing up. Have a lot more mentors out there. Open up some of these centers. You know, we mental health. I applaud the celebrities who are talking about this mental health situation right now, because mental health is, everybody suffers from some sort of mental health. If
Yes.
2020, if you're not traumatized in some kind of way through 2020 with all of the deaths that we had through COVID and this pandemic that we're going through, then something is seriously wrong with you.
Mm.
Um, because it has touched everyone, directly or indirectly. You might know somebody. If you just heard about somebody, then you've been touched by it. If you feel nothing about it, then that's another whole nother issue. Um, but it is a mental strain on people, healthcare workers. You know, I'm in the hospital, and people are tired. People are tired. You know, then you got people at home. It is a springboard effect. You know, parents, their children, the community, everybody is going through a mental strain because of what is going on, and trying to live today, trying to work, trying to feed their families is all a mental strain, and
Now,
it
would
will
you
give you.
say that will cause them to go to the drugs?
Some people do. Some people do. I mean, it's easy if you when you look at it. Look at this, right? What do people do when they go out to have a good time? They drink, right?
I drink a Shirley Temple. I told you I can't drink.
Right?
I'm always the
But,
designated driver. Trust me when I tell you. My
but you
friends
know me,
love it.
I don't do anything either anymore for years now, Susan. But my thing is that is the fabric of America, right? People go out, they drink, they just it's a social thing for them, you know. And someone explained something to me years ago. They said, we were talking about who is an addict, and we were talking about functional addict versus, an all-out addict that you see in the street. And he broke it down. He says 365 days in a year, right? 52 weeks in a year, right? 52 and 52 is 104, right? You work a job, 9 to 5. Friday night, Saturday night, you might go to church on Sunday or just rest on Sunday and go Monday. So 104 days out of that, you are getting high. Now you got your vacation, 2 weeks vacation. Everybody takes a sick day to make the weekend longer, right? To do what? Get high. You get high over half the year. Are you an addict? That was so enlightening to me, that the breakdown, when you look at it, you're putting mood altering drugs in your body over half the year, stopping your emotions from growing. And when you become short with people over something that may not be that deep, or a little constructive criticism, or maybe somebody's playing with you and you haven't had enough sleep because you were out partying till late. All of these things are factors on your mental health, your physical health, and definitely your spiritual health. When you're putting things in this temple that God gave you that is not for this temple, you are straining your spiritual being.
I just kind of want to go back to what you said earlier when you said that abuse in our community is like the elephant in the room, that is not addressed. And looking at Michael Williams, with him, he was molested, it said, as a child, where he questioned his sexual identity. I kind of want to touch on that because I really want to help someone who dealing with that as well. Now, I would divulge and be transparent. At the age of 9, I was raped by my 17-year-old cousin. And with that, of course, during the course of it, it was extremely, I can't even explain, traumatic for me. Um, of course, I was a virgin. That's nothing I was thinking about. But in the interim, it went from pain to pleasurable. And I'm saying to myself, like, whoa, what the heck is going on? I'm 9 years old. I'm trying to understand this. And it wasn't until I was watching Oprah Winfrey when she had a psychiatrist on there that they were discussing the topic of rape, molestation, sexual assault, and all of that. And he said something that literally freed me. He said the body doesn't know the difference between consensual sex and rape. All it knows is pleasure. So if you're being raped and it gets good to you, it's not your fault because that's just your body responding. And that freed me. But the only reason why I mentioned this because I'm wondering, Michael K. It said he was molested and had confusion, conflict with his sexual identity. That tells me then it wasn't a woman, one, because he wouldn't be confused if it was a woman, that it probably more than likely was a man. And maybe it was something that he enjoyed. So he was probably dealing with, well, if I enjoy this, then I may be, once again, not bashing anyone or saying anything, I may be gay or whatever have you. And could that have led, you know, um, to him, going the route of drugs?
Well, confusion definitely can lead people to use to escape something that they're, you know, confused about. You're confused, you're confused, you're confused. You know, I'm no expert in that field, but I would say my opinion would be that, if you're fighting with something that you don't understand within yourself, a lot of times the release is to forget, and forget with pleasure. um, Drugs reaches that pleasure principle in your mind, for that short time, that allows you to forget, you know, what you're going through, what it feels like, the pain of confusion, because confusion can be painful also. You know, your anxiety kicks up really high when you're either too high or too low of your comfort zone. And so that may be have been a situation with the brother. As I said, we'll never know because right now he's not here to speak for himself, but in that respect, there may be many other people out there who are going through that, the pain and use of drugs and alcohol to alleviate that pain of not coming out, not wanting to do something, but having had something done to them. And it's really, the mind is so powerful.
Mm.
It is so powerful, and the spirit is so powerful. And when your mind and your spirit, is that conflict, with this flesh, is conflict. I mean, the Bible talks about the warring of the mind and the
Yeah.
flesh.
That's what I say,
In
put on the full
Romans,
armor of God.
yeah. So, seeking wise counsel, being able to have someone to talk to about it. As you said, his mentor died, so I guess that took that person away that he could confide in. Um, is can be a great loss, and a lot of times when people are faced with a painful situation, they run back to what makes them feel good
The
for the
familiar.
moment and what they're familiar with.
So,
Yes.
so what advice? I mean, you were blessed because you mentioned you had parents. Okay, if I could divulge, you said your dad was a Navy SEAL. I mean, come on, how many people can say that your dad was a Navy SEAL? You had, Mama Williams there. You said that your family was the family to go to take the kids in the neighborhood that did not have anyone. So you were fortunate. But what would you say to that individual that don't have that? Where can they turn? Who can they go to get help?
I would love to say find a church. a church. I was fortunate to have been indoctrinated into Loyal Baptist Church in the Bronx. You know, Reverend Johnson was a great man. He taught the word. The church people, the deacons, and everybody at that church were 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 adults. You know, we were taught, we were shown, we were loved, we were cared for. Um, and someone, someone should be there. This should be more people, more organizations out there for people to be able to reach out to. Right now, they do have them. I mean, you have New York City Cares. You can call that number just like that. New York City Cares, NYC Cares. Dial that number, and you can talk to someone. You know, about whatever issue you're going through, mental health issue, whatever issue you're going through. You know, you have things, different organizations that you can call 311 if you having an issue with anything, substance abuse or this and that. You know, I actually have a couple of gentlemen that I work with, you know, that I give them a call and they pick up people from the street and take them to detox. You know,
Well,
if
would
I
you be
come
able to
across,
provide that information? Because I just don't want this to be a discussion. I also want it to be something that someone could say, you know what, I'm ready to get help. And this is where I can go. And I know you mentioned church, but unfortunately, church, can be very judgmental,
yes,
and that's not what a person need at that point. They want help. I don't have time for you to judge me. I need help, especially if they're able to muster up the courage and the strength to say, you know what, I'm ready to get clean. So I really want to. I know you mentioned new NYC Cares, right? Um,
yes,
and 311 everybody. Uh, and mind you, I'm gonna say this. This is all New York City information. Okay, so this is for the state, for the city and the state of New York. Uh, I would definitely try to make sure I have something that wherever you are, regardless of the state, that you can reach out and get help. As you can see, as Mr. Williams has pointed out, a lot of this goes back to mental health. We talked about it: trauma, depression, PTSD. Like I gave the definitions. All of this goes back to that, and then coupled with that, now you add on the drugs, which make it even worse. You know,
yes, absolutely. You know, those things go. First of all, substance abuse is a mental health issue.
mm,
It's a mental health issue. It's a self-esteem issue. It's a physical issue. You know, it's an emotional issue. It's a spiritual issue. When you do drugs, everything suffers. Everything suffers. You know, and it's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time. You're depleting your body of the proper nutrients that it needs. You're poisoning your mind, poisoning your body, poisoning your soul, and people literally are going crazy. You know, people are going crazy to escape. You know, um, you don't know how many people I counsel every week who talk about I just want to die.
mm,
It is God that allows me to be able to reach them, to help them to see in themselves that they want it to better for them to live. Just it's an everyday ongoing thing, and we need more people doing it. I question our church members. That's why, you being Chaplain Samuel, and amongst you hold many hats, and I'm just so proud of you. You know
Thank you.
that all churches should be. When I grew up, church was a resource center. I remember watching the drug addict, the prostitute coming in there, you know, and they weren't looked down upon. And the pastor and the deacons and the deaconesses and the elderly people, got around them and fed them and ministered to them. I didn't know they was
And
ministers. And,
love on
and
them, right?
love them. They fed them. They did this, and later you would see these people who are now, you know, people of God. They've come back. They've been restored through that love, and love really does conquer all.
Mm.
As I said at the beginning of the program, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. They're receptive. It's something that happens to someone's heart when they know that you care about them. It is so very important that you convey that to them early. And that's one thing that I say to the patients all the time. I said, listen, I'm not a doctor. I stay in my lane. But what I'm here for you, and how I can best assist you and help you to navigate through this whole process so that you get to the other side.
Mm.
And then I let them know, I give them something that was given to me, you know, in my process. One of who's my sponsor, mentor, friend now, he said, you keep one promise and you don't get used. You don't use and you will receive many gifts. It has not been a lie. It has not been a lie, you know? And then another gentleman many years ago, Papa Joe, had 30 years and he was a drug dealer turned crackhead, turned counselor. He
Mm.
was at Samaritan Village. He said, recovery is like this. It's this big wall. It's too high. It's too wide. He said it's too wide for you to go around. Anybody who's ever gotten to the top fell right on their face. You can't go under it because it's full of dead bodies. Recovery, you got to go through it, get to the other side, and don't get high. And what that means is life happens. You just keep going through it. You work through it. You don't use, and God will make it happen for you. These are wisdoms that, can't be told in the medical profession. You know, these are things that people have to reach people with. And this is why I like this platform in which you have, because it's about reaching people in a plain sense. We have to really meet people where they're at, come down from our credentials and say, you know what, I got you. Let me help you. Let me show you the way. I was there too. This is what I did, you know, because people are more apt to follow somebody who did something that looked like them, especially,
Yeah.
you know, and it's really, really important that we as a community do that. If we all did that for one person, we could solve our own problems.
That is so true. And then also, I mean, like I said, that's why I talk about 100 and 0, which is God's record, you know, the true undefeated champion. I mean, I have to say, Mr. Williams, you don't look like what you have gone through, you know, and when I tell my story, I hear the same thing. You know, Susan, you don't look like what you have gone through. And I only know it's because of my faith, you know, knowing and standing on God's word, knowing that He said He shall never leave nor forsake me. And when I had my own issue, battling, dealing with mental health, you know, and I've told the story watching the love of my life die in the bed only 10 minutes after his last words to me. 10 minutes, I lost my best friend, future husband, $10 million because he just got an investment and everything was in his name. And I was like, but God, you know, like almost like I literally almost lost my mind, but it was because I had an old lady, a old true West Indian woman. God bless my grandmother that poured in me and told me, Susan, whenever the road seems too hard, you said, Father, I stretch my hand to thee. No other help I know. If you withdraw your hand from thee, whither shall I go? And that's what helped me. So I know you said that you had a resource, like if someone needed to be picked up, right?
Yes, yes. It's a gentleman that I work with, and it's I actually just text him, you know, to ask him to use his put his information out there for that to happen because, you know, you have to get people's permission to put their things out there. We have this thing that we do, um, but he definitely is a great guy. You know, he works with some great guys and people that we identify that are ready to get some help. You know, they actually go pick them up. They take them to a detox and they help track them. You know, they help them in that process. So in my volunteer capacity, you know, and when I say volunteer capacity is we on the streets, we all know people that are down, that are going through something, you know, that could use some help in that maybe a user and in our interactions with them, you know, they might convey that they wish they could stop. You know, we have a small window when a person contemplates getting help
Mm,
in in getting them help. You know, we call this the stages of change. You
mm.
know, when you actually start to thinking I want to stop doing what I'm doing because I realize it is no good for me. You know, the window is small there, and that's when, you know, I utilize, you know, the brothers with that capacity so that they can get to the person, come get them, take them in and get some help because, as I said, the window is very small. The devil is busy, and it's when, you know, a person is at their lowest. You know, there's that time where God is always involved. You know, when that small voice comes, when you're at your lowest, when you might feel like dying, and God says no, and He snatches you back because what comes with you know the addiction, you know, is shame and guilt and just so many different things. The mind is playing tricks on you. And the addiction has one job, and it is to kill you.
Mm,
But before it kills you, it wants you to suffer.
mm.
And you know, you know who suffers with you? Your family. The people who are closest to you go through every symptom. that you go through and they don't use sleepless nights because they're worried about you. They can't eat because they're worried about you out there, you not eating. Okay? They losing weight because they not eating just like you. A everything you go through, they're going through too, simply because they love you. We are connected together, and the strain of everything that you're going through out there, when you take your family through it too. And we really have to look at how our community, people that we grew up with, who out there using, people that it's just in our neighborhood. We don't know. Listen, what they're doing. What is the alternative to that? What is the alternative if you don't get high? I have a great time. I have so much fun. I have this, I laugh like I've never laughed before. My head is always clear. I have energy. I have youth.
So this is an alternative now because you're no longer using what you will gain. But I just want to go back a minute because I really I want this to so be an eye opener for those who are using or in denial, that when you use, it's not just you, like you said, it's the family indirectly using because of the love they have for you or what you take them through. And that is so true. I have an uncle, God bless him. He transitioned home to glory, that was addicted to crack. And when I tell you, he hurt me because he stole from me. When I mean stole from me, like literally cleaned me out. Like I left him in my home for a day, not realizing, how bad it was, and came back and found my house empty, literally. Because of that is why I actually have 125 hours towards my case act, because I really wanted to understand, you know, the effects of drugs and everything. Because, like I said, I don't do any of that. People, I can't even drink soda. You know what I'm saying? So, when it comes to that, I really had to educate myself. But he really took us through. And God bless my grandmother, my old lady, she was just, where's Sherlin? Where's Sherlin? Where's Sherlin? And he literally disappeared from us for 7 years.
Shame and guilt. Shame and guilt. See, the addiction is very real. It will talk to you. It will
Wow.
talk to you. It will talk to you. When we talk about spiritual realms and stuff like that, I believe that, you know, um, and people who don't have that knowledge, I think are at a greater deficit, when they get involved in these illicit drugs and stuff like that, because they don't have that 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 wherewithal, that not knowledge, that keep them from going so far to the left. And the addiction will talk to you. It will talk to you. It will tell you, to do this, to do that, to do this, to do that, because
Wow.
it does not care about anything or anyone except feeding itself.
Mm.
Feeding itself, you know. And as I work with people, and I share with people, and I talk with people about, how this process goes and how it can go, because I make suggestions to people, you know, that you really have to get to a point where you practice something. You didn't become an addict overnight. The first time you picked up something, you were addicted to it. That's not how it happens. You know, um, a person becomes an addict, addicted to anything at all, when you tell yourself you need it. I read
Mm.
in a book, I read in a book, you know, by Napoleon Hill. It was actually called Outwitting the Devil.
Mm.
And one of the things he said in there that caught me so profoundly was that he said, when a person tells themselves that they need something, something happens in their thinking. They get caught up in a hypnotic rhythm. He called it a hypnotic rhythm, and you begin to automatically chase that.
Mm.
And I saw that. I saw that thinking back in my own life, looking at other people when I explained, you know, and this is why I listen for change talk when I counsel people, how they talk,
Mm.
the stages of change, when they actually are really moving in a positive forward motion. It's in what they say. It's
Mm.
in what they say, how they're talking. And that's what I listen for, to be able to give them more, to be able to open up more, and have them look at more resources for themselves, and applauding them on their progress, and everything, because people like to be acknowledged.
Mm.
I think that's so very important when dealing with people, because and so many people are being hurt by you doing hurting yourself, that when you're doing something right and you're making some strides, it's good to be applauded for that. I think that works great with people. At least it has, for the times that I've been dealing with people in that capacity. So, um, yes,
So
we
to
really got to get back to that.
I really got to what?
We really got to get back to that. Really applauding people for their successes, small as they may be.
Well, I mean, you know me, I'm an educator, right? So that's what I do. When I was
Yes,
in a
yes.
classroom teaching, uh, I actually applauded, like you said, even the small steps. So even if a student might have failed an exam, I still applaud them because guess what? They probably got higher than what they did the previous exam. So I, applaud that, like nice try, keep going. You understand? So
Absolutely.
I actually acknowledge, everyone. And it's not just in children, also in adults. Being an administrator, I'm a former New York City assistant principal. I've been a principal of several private schools and a supervisor. So I even applaud my staff, no matter, how small it is, to encourage them. And you're right, everyone needs encouragement. Well, I hope and pray that we're able to get that information from your connection in regards to picking up people, because I really feel that's so important. Like you said, if somebody, being that you explain also that small window of opportunity, if someone is ready, you can go and get them and help them. And that could be another life, that was saved. I really wish, that happened for, Earl Simmons. aka DMX, Edward Jacob, aka Shock G, and Michael K. Williams. All three of them gone this year senselessly. Matter of fact, I was reading with DMX how his son Exodus is really having a difficult time not having his father around. I mean,
Hey,
people they don't think about that. When you take that drug, although you may be thinking about the feeling, if you're gone, how it's going to affect your family, your children, especially for a young man losing his father.
you know, the addiction doesn't care about your fame, your fortune. One thing, the addiction, I mean, everyone,
Mm.
anyone can get it. The addiction doesn't care how much money you got, doesn't care how little money you got, doesn't care about your title or anything. And it is so sad that our people who have reached a pinnacle, who have such an opportunity to reach other people, um, have taken that one last time turned
It's
into
literally
one
one
last time,
last time. Yeah.
one last time, and they've been taken from us because of it. I It is an example of what not to do. It is truly an example. You think that they have made a major impact on people by what they did, you know, by showing people what not to do. And I mean, we need to magnify the fact that even in their death, that they are making a difference. They are making a difference. They were great artists. They were great people. And they belong to us. I say that, to many people when I might be in the street and my spirit moves me to give someone some money, who's down and out, and they say thank you, and I said, you're welcome, no matter what state you in. I love you. You belong to us. You know, we're one people. You belong to us, and that's what's really real. God didn't make anybody different from anybody. We're just all His people,
Right.
and we have to get back to that child like care about one another. Children don't care about no color. When they children, they just want to play with each other.
Yeah.
I remember taking my youngest son down to Central Park, because I didn't want him to, I wanted him to have the best little swings and the best little big stuff to play in. And that's where we used to go on our weekends, out the neighborhood. And all he would see, wow, all these little kids playing, and he would run over there, and they just like nothing, like nothing, you know. And that's how it should be with us adults. We grow up, we get these prejudices, we get separated by ideologies and stuff like that, and we don't want to help each other because of what we
Hello.
tell people when I give my groups. I said,
Wait, could you say
you
that
know,
again? Like you kind of
we just,
lost you there.
yeah, you got lost. Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I often say this when I give my groups. I said, there's no big eyes and no little U's here. We are all the same here. Staff and patients. you know, and they appreciate that. They really appreciate that because they need to hear that we are just like them.
Yeah. So I really want to thank you so much, Mr. Williams. I mean, we really got in, as the kids would say. We really got in, and thank you for your knowledge because I never knew that the age you said when you start using your emotional, that's where it stops. And that makes sense now when you see them as adults now. Chronologically, they may be 40, but in DMX case, he started using at the age of 14. So that means that emotionally, from what you're telling me, that's where he was at. So any last words, Mr. Williams? Hello?
Yes,
Any
I'm. You're
last
back.
words?
Well, last words. Listen, thank you for having me on. Anytime you call and we can make this happen, let's do this. I loved working with you down through the years. I remember at National Action Network when we were both speaking at a rally, and Reverend Sharpton challenged you with creating Queens chapter National Network,
We gonna bring
and
that up, right?
and, um, and you said okay, and then he instructed me to help you, and that's where we started our journey together.
Yeah.
And then running around when President Obama was becoming president, for the rally, we were going from church to church to church. We did a lot of work together, the block parties and everything else. And it's been a great pleasure with you all down through the years. Uh, just really, and any time that I can help you to do anything, you just call because I believe in your mission. I
Thank
believe that God has blessed you to give you this platform and speak about the things that we need to hear.
you. Yes.
So much success. God's got you. He's placed you in a position
Thank you.
to do it, and I look forward to doing some more things with you in the future.
I really appreciate that. So, everyone, thank you once again to 100. What is that? God's record, the true undefeated champion, Kapow. Part two to Are You Hurting? Please, I'm going to put up resources, what Mr. Williams had mentioned, uh, and I pray that this truly helps someone. Thank you, Mr. Williams. God bless.
Thank you.